Well, I've gotten so good at self-isolation, I've decided to refer to myself as a Quarantinista. And I, I feel really good this morning. The sun is absolutely blazing because of the reduction of transatlantic flights that all pass over here in both directions. I'm in the middle of the main corridor between Europe and America. And everyone seems a lot. The quarantine lines outside the social isolation boxes outside the shops, more people were smiling and laughing, and a general sense of, you know, normality is there somehow, if you can call it that. I had a bad moment about 3 a.m. last night. I was looking at the new laws passed in Ireland, these emergency legislations, and they can basically, the government can basically kill you if they want. There's no limits on what they can do using them. And we're essentially heading under, well, we're in the martial law here now, really, basically. They just call it, emergency powers laws. And the last time I think these laws were enacted was World War II, and before that during the Civil War. So that's like it's a serious it is. The I was reading it, and I shouldn't have been reading it on the government website, and I got upset. I was like, well, is this really necessary? I don't know. Will they remove these emergency powers once this is over? And we're seeing things like in Ireland and Britain and in France, they're now going to give money to people, and I believe Trump is doing it in the US, the money to people who are long-term unemployed, just to help them out. And on one hand, particularly in France, it's very sinister because they say we're helping all the people, but that was really that's to really to save Macron's ass uh, from all the yellow vests and the other riots that go on there nearly almost constantly, so he can kind of save himself as a hero or something like that. And plus, the laws they've enacted in France are even more draconian than the ones in Ireland. My friends in Italy just tell me that things like tanks now parked at street corners, and no one even believes anymore that this is because of the virus. They believe that there's some kind of secret war going on of some kind, and it's just like, it's the more I read about it, it's just a regular flu. Yeah, it makes people sick. Yeah, people die. But if you don't have HIV or leukemia or a compromised immune system or you're over 80, you've got a very good chance of survival. And this is not expressed enough. So I went out at 3 a.m. last night and I looked up. I was feeling a bit down over reading all that things, and I looked up at the stars when I went outside. I've never seen the stars like I saw them last night. It was like being in the desert. I was seeing Nuit. I was like thinking of the opening passage of chapter 1 of the book of the law, had the manifestation of Nuit, the unfolding of the company of heaven. Every man and woman is a star. It just like that just locked into my head looking at that. And I immediately felt a hell of a lot better. So I got some good night's sleep, and had some interesting dreams as I've been having a lot through this thing, and now I feel like I felt okay the next day. But I just had like a moment of like, it was about 15 minutes where I was like, what is happening to us as a society and a people? But now I don't feel so bad. I think a lot of it had to do with this, and I kind of ran away at myself. I started thinking, well, there's an asteroid coming very close to the Earth on the 28th and the 29th of April, and extremely close by cosmology standards. When you say, well, it's going to be 3 million miles away, but the gravitational pull of the planets of the inner solar system could fragment it, and we could literally have bombs raining down on us, and the electromagnetic pulse could be just worse than a CME, or be as bad as a CME, or even worse because it's more localized, because wherever the atmospheric high bursts happen, that's what the electromagnetic pulse is released, and it fries anything that's basically not heavy duty electrics. Excuse me, it's already pollinating too very early, and so the the whole thing is very was got very strange and things like that, and I started to think about this. Is this really a cover story for this asteroid? Is that what this is really about? And we've had near misses in 2008. They didn't even tell us about that until it passed because they just kept had a lockdown in the media. And there was one in 2002, and they same thing. This one they're saying, oh, it doesn't. You don't worry about it. But what just got me freaked out was that a lot of the things I'm reading saying that if things return back to normal, it'll be by April 30th. Now, April 30th would be the day that they're potentially giving the all clear. And if this was the case on this thing, and I just don't know. I just don't know. Now, while the virus is definitely real and everything like that, then it could be a handy cover story. I don't know. I don't believe it now. I just had a moment of concern, that we all have being human, and it passed. And I'm feeling pretty good today. This will look when this is all over, and it will end. Even if the worst happened, we still survive. Great songs are going to be written during this. Great art is going to be produced. Great novels are going to be written. Great romances are going to start. Bad romances are going to end. I don't know. I hear people say, like World War II, there'll be a sudden burst in babies. There's such low fertility among Westerners right now. That's not going to happen anyway. Like I think this is, and I saw this thing yesterday where this American woman was freaking out that everyone bought the diapers out of a store. You lazy cow! Your mother and your grandmothers used nappies and they washed them in the sink. You have a washing machine and a dryer, and this is like they can't survive. The snowflakes can't survive. There was an activist in Canada who set himself on fire and stabbed himself in the street. And he was a long-term activist involved in Occupy. Now, I knew from day one, there's a horrible story. The guy had kids and everything. And you could see in the video it was over for him. And you're going to see a lot of that. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I think it's a horrible thing. You're going to see people who were like, it was the whole classic thing. He was Mr. Conspiracy, 5G, and eventually had no one left but himself and his conspiracies, and he wanted to believe he was some kind of hero and die for the cause. And you'll see this with the flat earthers too and groups like that. When they realised that how foolish. I mean, I wonder how these flat earthers are going to rationalise this asteroid coming in closer in the air to what they'll say it's a NASA projection or something. This is what they're up against. And this chap that killed himself in Canada, we're going to see an awful lot of suicides, huge numbers, and he was still trying to hawk the Occupy thing. Now, when Occupy first started, it was obvious it was bullshit. Have all these like wealthy white kids walking down the street with instantly made signs from the George Soros Foundation, all with their wanting to smash capitalism, and all of them holding iPhones and wearing the most expensive clothes and designer fashions, marching down outside Wall Street, getting their free vegan burgers that weren't given to the homeless, and it was that thing was like Russell Brand and everything else since then. That's all, it was just exposed as a pile of bullshit to push globalist attention. But it was obvious from day one that anyone had intent. All these actors from Central Casting being hired and put out on the street and given speeches to read. So, and then all these other spooks writing comments underneath them in YouTube, oh, you're the next George Washington, or you're the next, Thomas Jefferson. And this chap who killed himself in Canada, he clearly was still trying to capture that feeling of worth that he had gained during the Occupy thing. All those, the 10 years ago it must be now, but that was a special moment in his life. He suddenly had a purpose. And he obviously was trapped into that. And now he's living in a totalitarian world, albeit a temporary one. And he just couldn't deal with it. And you're going to have all kinds of things like that happen. It's just like the flat earthers, during the moment of this mad flat earth hype, they all thought they were so, we're going to change the world. If this lie is exposed, you're going to have huge numbers of them just either ending up in mental hospitals or committing suicide. And again, I'm not saying it's a good thing. You will have huge numbers of snowflakes. You'll have loads of, I'd be worried now about fathers who have kids, these fathers who have these suicidal tendencies, who are always going on about being suicidal and depressed. I think if you're married or have kids with them, it's time to get you and the kids away. We had a guy here in Ireland called Alan Haw, who, when all his options was up, killed his wife and kids after they found kiddie porn on the school computer where he was a principal, and you're going to get a lot of that kind of thing, a lot of checking out, and that. They've released all the prisoners in Ireland. There are something like 500 of them, something, or 700, something ridiculous. I don't know if they've released sex offenders and things like that. I think they're mostly petty criminals. But I wouldn't have put it past them to release jihadists and everything else like that. It's my attitude was that let them all die in prison, let them all get infected if they, they're that bad. And but no, they released them onto the streets. It's just It just is a strange time, and that's and that's how to approach it, as a strange time, that's my regular asthmatic cough, by the way. I don't have coronavirus. As a strange time, that's just how to process this time and how to look at it. And strange times produce strange thoughts, unusual tangents of human cognition and psychology, and these must be channeled into great art, great creativity, and an evaluation and a reconsideration of your own life, where you stand, your relationships. And remember, don't let them take the song from your heart. I would suggest now, and I'm very serious, this is an immediately serious thing. I don't like to tell people how to live their lives. I'm not one of these types who goes around calling everybody names or stuff because, I'm a failure in my own life. But I will suggest this right now. If there's any meat golems in your life, NPCs, people who are toxic, trauma vampires, people who, when their name appears on social media and what they represent, makes you feel bad, makes you feel uneasy, doesn't make you feel joy, block them and remove them from your life. If they keep people around you that make you smile, that keep the song in your heart. And this is very important. This will be a time of evaluation. The real virus will be the cleansing of oneself, one's psychology. You're going to have people in your life, it's time for them to go. Just think, here's how you do it. Are there people out there who trap you into a negative holding pattern regarding their own personal problems they never stop talking about? Are they always going on about being suicidal and depressed and they never seem to do anything about it? If their name and their email appears or message appears in your social media, and your reaction to these people is everything from uncomfortable to I can't deal with this to I don't feel like being drawn into their drama and their car crashes again, you have to go block them. Surround yourself with people who are positive. And this is not a new agey thing. This is what you need also to help your immune system. People who tell jokes, people who are happy, and not people who do things like share funny memes and then start like nasty dark stuff. They're not who you want, because they're actually parasites. They're using the funny memes and stuff to entrap you, and then they go into the dark shit. Don't do that. This is a time of great art and great magic as well. We have a clear path through. I mean, that's not for this channel. This is for open source called TV. But if you're interested in those things, your divination and stuff like that will be more powerful than ever. The insights that are given to you through, the actual resolution of things as they happen through acts of divination, whether astrology or whatever, will be stronger and more clear as they develop into fertility within your consciousness. And that's it. You've got to get rid of people out of your life now who are toxic, not fulfilling you, keeping you in a negative holding pattern as a result of mistakes and car crashes and stupidity in their own lives. Get on, find the people who leave the song in your heart and get rid of the others. And when this thing passes, don't go back to them. Don't go back to them. You've lived your life to this point and you're now a ripened fruit. Fall from the tree and leave the rotten fruit behind. Thank you.